Hi, I'm Quincas and I'm a synth DIY guy. Before we get started with today's video, I'd like to share a bit of good news with you guys if that's okay. Some of you may know my day job is actually as a composer, and I write for movies, commercials, video games sometimes. I actually just got the Fenix Film Award for my work in Everardo Gonzalez's documentary The Devil's Freedom. I won the award for Best Original Score, and I was competing with all the movies in all categories, so I'm really happy and proud to have won this. I even got a little statuette here. I think this is supposed to be a phoenix egg. My daughter calls it a giant Kinder egg because you can actually open it up, and on the inside here you can see the category that I won, maybe. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you guys. And the other bit of good news is that I've been composing for 6 months now for the YouTube audio library, which is a really nice gig, so I'm really happy about that. I'm gonna link to the videos that I made in my personal channel showcasing some of this work, both on the YouTube audio library as well as excerpts from my soundtrack in the movie that I got the Phoenix Award for. So thanks for indulging me for a moment, and now let's get started with today's review. This is VPME's 4HP, a dual headphone amplifier for Eurorack, designed by Vladimir Pantelic in Germany. It's a really useful module, with a set of parallel outputs and two heavy-duty 1/4-inch stereo headphone output jacks, each with its own volume control. It uses good quality op amps for the outputs too, and takes up very little space at 4HP. The kit comes complete with everything you need to build it, including all the jacks, pots, panel and PCBs, ICs and sockets, ribbon cable, power header, capacitors, diodes, the mounting screws, and a printed build manual. Building it is quick and easy. I started with the resistors, but since they're placed standing up like teepees, it would have been smarter to place the IC sockets first. I had to use my X-Acto knife to prop the sockets up due to the resistor heights. I also made a mistake. There are two types of 100 nanofarad capacitors in the kit, film and ceramic. The manual refers to the film ones as foil, a term I was not familiar with. So I made the mistake of soldering the ceramic caps where the film caps should have gone, only to have to then remove them and lose them, having to replace them with my own caps. So just keep track of where the caps go, don't let the fact that they have the same value confuse you. As usual, fasten all the front panel components to the panel before actually soldering them to the board. The stereo jacks are what hold the panel and the circuit PCB together. Everything else is straightforward, until you get to the input and parallel output jacks, the small ones. There are a lot of resistor legs used as jumpers, and the textual explanation in the manual can be rather confusing. So make sure you cross-reference with the actual large color picture on the back of the build guide. You have to jump a few pads together, tie the top jack tips to the bottom ones, and the right input switch to the left input tip. Do this part carefully, it's almost like making a sculpture. That's it, check the power rails for shorts and plug it in. Mine worked right away. Alright, so here's today's challenge. How do you make an interesting patch featuring a headphone amplifier? So, thought about this a little bit and decided to actually use it for something different than its original intention. Basically as two stereo sends. So we're going to use Vladimir Pantelic's awesome 4HP dual headphone amplifier module as a dual stereo effect send module. So I already have it set up, so output 1 is going into a stereo input in my sound card, and output 2 into another, and the parallel line outputs here are going into another. So I'm using 3 stereo sets of inputs in my sound card in my computer. So what we're going to do now is going to use my BeatStep Pro right here as a sequencer, and we're going to make like a beat. So I'm triggering trigger 1 from the BeatStep Pro is going to trigger the rampage over here. So already We can see that happening. And that's gonna go, this output is gonna go into a multiple, Brazil multiple right there. And from the multiple, I'm gonna send the Rampage envelope output into one of my hex mix VCAs right here, and also into the pitch control of an oscillator. So I've used the FM input, so I have a adjustment control, and we're gonna set the octave real low and send that triangle wave out to the hex mix VCA. The output of the hex mix VCA into a mixer. So I have this 3-input Erica Synths mixer right here, and the output of my Erica Synths mixer is going to go into the left input in my headphones module right there. Let's bring up that volume. There we go. That's like a high sweep. We want it to be real low, so. Kind of hard. Let's try something else. Let's try the multi-mode VCF in self-modulation, self-oscillation. That's much better kick right there. The sine wave. That's a kick I can live with. Now let's take a white noise from my Erica Synths modulator. I'm going to send that to another hex mix VCA right there. And we'll take the output of that hex mix VCA and send it to the mixer. Alright. There we go. So now we're going to send another trigger from the BeatStep Pro, trigger number 2, to the Rampage channel 2. And that's going to trigger the VCA. That's going to open the VCA for the noise. Cool. So how about we actually send that trigger to a multiple, and from the multiple to the Rampage trigger, but also from the same multiple we're going to trigger the clock in of the modulator, which is generating a random voltage out of its sample and hold output that we can use with one of my patch pal attenuators here. So we have a range control. Send that to modulate the length, the fall time of that hi-hat, so we can have varying lengths of hi-hat. So already I can program a drum beat here. And now I can play hi-hats. Cool. Now the hi-hat length is varying randomly. Makes it much more interesting beat than if you have just a static hi-hat. Now we can take one of the melodic sequencers from the BeatStep Pro and create a voice with it. So pitch is going to go into the 1 volt per octave input of my Erica Synths oscillator. We're going to send that saw wave to my other filter, the Polyvox filter, and the output of the Polyvox filter into another of my hex mix VCAs. We're going to send the gate from the BeatStep Pro voice into the gate in of my Erica Synths Polyvox envelope generator, and that's going to trigger the VCA right here. control the VCA. And our VCA output is going to go into another channel of the mixer. And let's program a nice bass line here. Let's make that lower. Now I want to animate that filter a little bit, so why not take one of the LFOs from my Octo LFO bank, send that to CV1. There we go. Now we can play around with the sends. So let me turn on the other camera. Alright. Now what happens when I bring this up? Cool. So I have a manual send for my reverb. And delay. Alright, so delay is getting input 5 and 6. That's good. So cool. So now I can use this as part of my performance. I'm not using it as a headphone amp right now. I'm using it as effect send. 2 effect sends to 2 different inputs in my DAW, which have plugins for reverb and delay. So here we go. Kind of a dubby effect. So cool. That's an alternative use for Vladimir Pantelic's 4 HP headphone amplifier module. Of course, you can also just use it as a headphone amp. And you can also use it as line output too. So you could have a recorder plugged into output 1 and headphones out to output 2, and the parallel outputs out to the main mixer. So you can basically split your stereo signal 3 ways, mono or stereo signal. and simultaneously send it to your own headphones for monitoring, to the PA system for people to hear, and to an external recorder. So it's actually a very useful module beyond its original intended use. Hope you liked the video today. If you did, please like, subscribe, and join us on Patreon. So cool, see you later. Stay noisy.